Sometimes the positive of that is it frees us to live what's in the heart and live the life we want to now, realizing that, life is not forever.
Welcome back to Abundant Culture Podcast,
where we dissect the mindsets and tactics of the true beasts of business.
People like Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and Warren Buffett.
All to create a blueprint to experience life more abundantly. Hey everybody, it's Joseph from the Abundant Culture Podcast. We're so glad to have you back again today because we're actually going to be talking about something we've never actually covered on the Abundant Culture Podcast before. Now, Jasmine and I are always interviewing CEOs and founders of for-profit companies, but for-profit companies aren't the only type of companies. And today we're actually going to be interviewing the CEO and founder of a non-for-profit company that helps people to beat cancer. You heard that right, folks. He helps people beat cancer. And not only that, but he has another company that is a for-profit company that actually helps get the word out for other non-for-profits. So he's a very, very busy man. And today he took time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about the pros and cons of running a non-for-profit and why you might want to consider starting a for-profit company along with your non-for-profit. So we're going to be covering a lot today, and we cannot wait for you to listen and learn from the CEO of CLOZTALK and the CEO and founder of Imerman Angels, Jonny Imerman.
So, hi, Jonny. Thank you so much for coming onto the Abundant Culture Podcast. We are so excited to have you and to have our listeners hear your story, because when we heard it, we were like, oh my God, yes, he has to be on the podcast. So before we go into all the things you do in business and nonprofits, tell us what the story is. This is like the best part.
You two are awesome energy. It was great seeing you guys in person recently, and you two are fun. I love that you guys are married. You work together. You go serve the country. You guys are awesome. So I'm flattered to be here. I'm honored to be here with you guys. So yeah, a little bit about me. My name's Jonny Imerman. I'm from Detroit area originally. And I was in my 20s, and like a lot of people in the 20s, you're not thinking about any health problems. You're just kind of, probably not sleeping a lot and working and trying to figure out your career and maybe going out on dates or hanging out with friends. You're just not thinking about health. And all of a sudden, boom, I had pain that was right in my left testicle. I doubled over. I didn't no idea what's going on in my body. And sure enough, go to the hospital, talk to a doctor, and it turned out I had testicular cancer. I was 26, so immediately went into surgery, went into chemo. You have to bank sperm. You learn real quickly most of us cannot have our own children. There's so many things that hit you so fast, and it's scary. So I had a great family, and I had a lot of friends and support through 2 years of this journey and this battle. But the missing piece to me, and I think the crack in the system, was I didn't know any other young adult survivors who went through the same thing. They were also in the 20s. So a long story short, a group of survivors and I got together. It's always a team that makes good stuff happen. And we had a small team of survivors that said, you know what, none of us knew people like us during treatment. Why don't we change that? Let's create a band of angels. Let's create a network. And today it's called Imerman Angels. And our website is imermanangels.org. It's a 501c3 registered nonprofit, and it's free. Everything's free. And we've recruited over 10,000 cancer survivors and family members. Some of them are parents that have a child that went through cancer. Some of them beat brain cancer themselves. Others had bone cancer in your toe. Like whatever treatment you went through, every survivor or family member has a story. And they get involved as an angel with Imerman Angels as a volunteer. And we're blessed to be the world's largest network of volunteers. And then we match them up one-to-one with somebody fighting cancer, let's say in Southern Illinois, or in Florida, or in Washington State, or in Paris, or London, or Argentina. Anywhere in the world. We've helped people in over 100 countries, but we've got survivors that want to be on call to be plugged in when somebody is diagnosed with the same thing this week. They can say, look, I beat that 5 years ago. I know the story. I've walked the walk. I know what chemo's like. I know what losing your hair is like. And one-to-one, they mentor that person through the fight. And the goal is nobody fights cancer alone. This is a free network. We volunteer, we give back, but we don't want anyone waking up tomorrow or next week or next year thinking, I have this rare cancer. I'm terrified. I've got 2 little kids. I've got a job. How do I do all this? What do I tell my family? Am I going to live? They should know somebody who's been there and survived. There's always someone who's survived, and give them hope. And that's really what Imerman Angels is about. And later we're like serial social impact guys. And later through Imerman Angels, we got the word out, and we really realized we needed to create awareness to help more people. And we needed to create awareness to recruit more survivors, to give back, to help more people. So awareness became clear. That was the key to impact. If people weren't aware of us, we couldn't help people. So that was a driver. And when we learned that, we started making T-shirts and hats, and you can see this one. Here's one of our T-shirts right here. We started making T-shirts and hats, black and white, gray and white, higher quality stuff. In the beginning, we made the $2 stuff like a lot of nonprofits do. And when we made better quality and our friends started to wear them in downtown Chicago, the awareness started to grow. People started to notice it or ask. It was a way to engage. And that gave us the idea that we're working on now, a project called CLOZTALK, CLOZTalk.com. And we have 150 nonprofits where we literally design and create their apparel for them and run a 24/7 Shopify store for them. And it's a directory of vetted, awesome nonprofits where people can learn about the missions, get inspired. But if you want to help that charity raise awareness because you believe, you can buy right there a one-off, a T-shirt, a hat, a track jacket, and support the mission that's meaningful to you. And that's our dream with CLOZTALK. How do we scale what helped us raise awareness for one charity? How do we do that for all great causes? And we hope to be thousands of charities we help one day and make all their swag cooler, never charge the charity anything, and inspire people to be ambassadors for causes. If you're going to the gym anyway, don't wear a plain white T-shirt or a plain black T-shirt. Wear a logo that's meaningful, that literally is pushing a mission and raising awareness for something that really makes the world better.
Yeah.
It's a little bit about us, or a lot about us, but that's what we're working on.
I think that's awesome, because it's just that idea of taking something simple that you wear pretty much every single day and then using it for a great cause. And it's crazy how just something as simple as wearing a hat or wearing a shirt could raise awareness about, a non-for-profit or whatever the cause might be. And I feel like that's so underestimated in our society, where we do everything through social media. And sometimes we forget a simple piece of clothing could actually really do the job. And sometimes just as quickly as social media can in a lot of occasions too. So that kind of leads to our other question, which is how did having cancer and really beating that cancer, how did that affect your life, like in regards to your mindset, your relationships, your social life? Kind of dig deep into like the effects and the causes of that, basically.
Yeah, well, thank you, Joe, for your question. And you know what, you're exactly right. I mean, sometimes we forget on the ground in real life, we can push out a cause or spark a conversation just based on a logo. It's something simple and clean. It's got to look cool. But if it's something that's meaningful, it might spark a conversation. And it's sort of a hybrid of on the ground, face-to-face, people spreading the words, sparking a conversation, connecting people, which is great, eye to eye, and telling people about causes. But also, if you do social media and you're taking pictures or you're doing a selfie with the group and posting it that you run into, if you're still wearing that logo still gets on that picture. So that's another way that it can be in the social media as well as on the ground. So we hope it can help the charities raise their awareness on both, up there and on the ground. That is definitely the goal. Whatever we can do to get the word out so they can help more people or more animals or whatever their mission is. That's our goal. If the charities have more awareness, they can do more because they're going to draw in all the resources they need. And thanks for the other question. Yes, how did it affect my mind? and my mindset on life going through cancer. What I've learned is with young adults, especially going through cancer, it is life altering. In fact, we make a lot of big decisions quickly, I think, for a lot of us, including me, because we realize, whoa, we're still alive. Like, we just went through this big trauma, and it was, you're plucked out of your main flow of life. And at least the path you think you're on, you're definitely on a different path now. And you make a lot of big decisions. Like, for me, I quit my job in commercial real estate. I never dreamt that I could work in social impact full time. I just didn't even think it was an option, and I worked in commercial real estate and wore a suit and tie every day. Then after I got sick, I was like, whatever, man, put up the suit and tie, got the t-shirts. Now all we wear is this, right? We just wear logos and t-shirts for causes. We wear hats. We're very casual all the time and comfortable. And quit my job. I left Detroit. I moved to Chicago. I realized life is not forever. You've got to make decisions to do things that, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? And I think that's an attitude of a lot of us as survivors, especially young adults that go through it, because as being single and you're more free, you can make these quick decisions. And I really capitalized on all of them. I left Detroit, moved to Chicago, quit my job. We started this network, Imerman Angels. I decided, hey, let's just do this full time and talk to some friends and nonprofits. And they're like, you can absolutely build it. We'll help you. I had some great mentors. I was very lucky. And just kind of like learned. I mean, really what it did to me is it gave me more courage to do what was really in the heart, where I think before cancer, I would have been afraid. I would have more fear to say, wait, that's unstable. I have this steady job. You got health insurance. My boss pays me every month. I work hard. I don't really love it. But, it kind of taught me, listen to your heart. It's okay to take a risk. The worst thing in the world, if you move to a new city and start a new organization with a team and it doesn't work out, then, it's not going to kill you. You just have to start something else or go back to that world if you wanted to, or move back to Detroit. I mean, it kind of taught me that lesson that the worst thing that can happen from these decisions is not death. It's not going to kill you. And I've already sort of faced that, as other survivors have too. And relatively, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. I might as well just go for it. And I think that's typical with any trauma. I mean, you guys have both served in the military. I mean, people that have massive amounts of PTSD or have had situations where really high trauma. I think it can be any sort of trauma. That sometimes the positive of that is it frees us to live what's in the heart and live the life we want to now, realizing that, life is not forever. And I think cancer is especially one of those traumas. It makes you face your mortality and you're like, what am I waiting for? Like, it's time now to do what I really love the most. So it affected me in a lot of ways. I look at it as a positive, that the net is 100% positive. The friendships that I have, the survivors that volunteer with Imerman Angels, getting to know them, getting to know social impact people, entrepreneurs, awesome people like you. I mean, this is like I love this world so much better. So it definitely was a hard fight at the time, but I think there's no question about it. Like, I wouldn't trade it. I think the cancer experience really pushed me on a path that is a much more positive path for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that I truly think that is like so amazing to hear that you wouldn't have traded that experience, because looking from the outside in, it's like, oh yeah, I definitely don't want that to happen to me.
Totally.
But
No, I get that.
Hearing you say that, like, it has changed you so much, like, being in the military, we did see other people, but our trauma, well, my trauma anyway, I don't think is really comparable to yours. Like, so I didn't really feel like, I don't know, like, I just didn't really feel like, it was life-changing for me yet. So I really think that's amazing. And then also the part about you saying the positivity, that reminded me, because we had donated from the coffee shop. We donated some of our proceeds to a woman in the local community that she beat breast cancer twice, and she was like giving back to the chemo center that she went to by doing like these little bags, like chemo care bags, like with lip balm and stuff like that. And when we finally met her to like give her the check, this was our first time meeting her, and she told us that positivity was like it played a huge role in her beating the cancer.
Yeah.
So I think that was very interesting too, for you to also bring that up. And it's just like positivity is like such a great thing, that positivity, and then the support, how you provide that support through the Imerman Angels. So like this is all just great.
Well, thank you. You are so right though, Jazz. There are actually studies now, and I'm glad she's doing okay. It's so wonderful that you guys are so generous and donated and helped her. Because it is hard. The bills do pile up for so many people. You know, the system's tricky, especially when you're sick already and you're on chemo, and I'm sure she's losing her hair. And then you have to figure out all these intricacies and numbers with your insurance and which bills. Sometimes it's just like overwhelming. And then people have jobs, and like, that's another job, just to figure out the insurance side. So it's so nice that you guys, were able to give back to her and help her. But there's no question what she said is not only true, but there's data and research now that's overflowing, that's proving every day that people who are more positive with cancer and they're more upbeat and optimistic, they absolutely beat cancer more often. They're more likely to live. They're more likely to live longer. There's no question that all the scientists are saying. There's tons of research that points to the brain and the mindset. It has a lot to do with the outcome. And you got to take the drugs. Like I believe, like my cancer had already spread, into my pelvis, my abdomen, behind my kidneys, almost to my lungs. If I didn't do the chemo or I didn't do the treatments, I don't think I would be standing here. But at the same time, you have to have a healthy mindset to get through all of that. Your body fights harder for you. I really believe that when the brain believes you can do it and you're around positive people, positive energy. But if you're thinking the whole time, like this is the worst thing ever, or I'm angry, or I know I'm going to die, if people start thinking those thoughts, there's research that shows that they literally, they do worse, sadly. So we got to help people. We got to inspire them. We got to give them friendships. Imerman Angels is definitely a part of that fight, where it's give them a connection, give them a friendship, prove to them that somebody cares about them and is going to help them see that they could do it, give them hope. They've beaten it, so can this person. But whatever we can do to make them positive, there's no question people live longer and beat cancer more often, which is awesome. The research just keeps coming out one after the next, proving that that's true.
For sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
So another question that I wanted to make a statement, kind of backing up to what you said before when you were talking about starting this non-for-profit and going into it full time. You mentioned that the worst case scenario was not as bad as what you were facing before. And I just wanted to really make that clear for anybody on the podcast who didn't necessarily hear that or really pick up on it. I just really wanted to restate that for them, because a lot of times in my line of work, trying to get people to invest in businesses, to invest in real estate, all these different types of things that they can be doing with their money. There's that fear, and it's funny and it's not funny, that a lot of times that fear is almost like primal. So it's almost like that primal fear of like, oh, I'm going to die if this goes bad. Like it's the type of fear that you would have like in a situation where you're surrounded by wildlife like lions, tigers, and bears that want to kill you.
Right.
And it's so weird because it's like it's money, and money is important, but it's not like life or death type important in most situations. And I just really want to reiterate that, like, whatever it is you want to do in life, whether it's start a non-for-profit, start a business, move to a different city or country or state to get, that job that you've always wanted. What I really got from what you said is take the risk, because at the end of the day, if it does not work out, you're still going to be alive, which is what counts the most.
That's exactly right, Joe. It's like all of a sudden you're like, wait, it's not that bad. Like if it doesn't work out, it's going to be hard for a little bit, but you'll figure it out. You're still alive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think some of us have been blessed with the situation where we've been put into situations that felt like really dangerous, like, oh, this is going to kill me. Yeah. And then when it doesn't, like you're so much more bold and brave than you were before. Like one thing that me and Jasmine had to really face is because we were starting this entrepreneurship thing, bank account dwindled. We literally lost our apartment, which was like a traumatic experience for us because that was our home. That's where we liked to stay. That's where we had the most peace. And all of a sudden it wasn't there anymore. So it was that same part of my brain that was lighting up if like, somebody was like trying to kill me. It was that same stressor almost. But when I went through it, what I found is that it helped me to do the things in life that I needed to do next that were actually scarier or would be perceived as riskier because it was almost like a primer. It was getting me ready to do something greater because I would not have been able to do some of the things that I'm doing now if I was still holding on to that apartment, Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I resonated with what you said because like you went through this situation that was literally life or death. So everything else after that seems a lot smaller. And that's what I really want people to understand with their dreams. Like literally, if you try and you fail, it's gonna feel like it sucks, just like with anything else, but you're going to be alive, which is what counts most. And because you're alive, you have a chance to try again. So I really resonated with that. And I just wanted to make that clear for somebody because somebody's listening to this and they're afraid to take a risk. And you just heard it from two different types of people fighting two different types of battle. Take the risk. You're going to live regardless of what happens. And that worst case scenario is not anywhere near as scary as you make it out to be.
I totally agree, Joe. And I'm so glad it worked out at the time for you guys and leaving the place you love. I mean, that is traumatic and that's hard, but you're right. You couldn't be where you are now. You're, on 2, soon to be 3 units. You guys are on the move. You're doing what you love. You're doing it with the person you love. And, it does take some of these risks to say, what, I need to risk something or give up something, whether it's a place or whether it's 2 years of your 20s that you're in a hospital. You're giving up something of you to basically say, well, I want to live the life I want to live. I want to be happy. Every minute counts. Every day counts. And you get to do what you truly love. Well, one thing, and I totally agree with everything you just said, and one thing I've learned when people do what they love, it's amazing how organically they draw the right energy to themselves because people can feel it and they can feel your passion and they can tell that you care and that you believe in what you're trying to do. And I think it's just a matter of time. Do you draw on enough people for you guys to invest in what you're doing, or draw on enough people that you work with, or the next unit that you're going to build or business, but you draw it in because you literally are fired up and inspired by what you're doing. You're choosing to be where you are. And I really think that there's some force of nature out there that brings us what we need when we're doing what we love. And we're also willing, as you guys know, as entrepreneurs, if you got to stay up to 2:30, 3 a.m. some nights to do it, you're doing it with a smile and you're jamming on a laptop because you're this is what I chose. It's hard and it's long and it's hours, but nothing's easy. But you're doing what you want to. It's a lot easier to put the hours in when it's what you chose and what you love. But you don't know that until you try it.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to Imerman Angels and CLOZTALK, so is CLOZTALK also a non-for-profit or is that just a regular for-profit business?
CLOZTALK, we set up as a regular company and a regular for-profit business.
Okay.
Imerman Angels is a 501c3. It still is. We have 13 full-time staff. We're based right here in the Loop in Chicago. We have 2 social workers. They're constantly working with cancer patients every day, thousands every year, matching them up. We set up CLOZTALK as a company this time, not a nonprofit, for a couple reasons. It's definitely more nimble. We were willing to take some of our savings and invest it and put it in and saying, look, let's create a sustainable model that actually now has a product, a t-shirt, a hat, a track jacket that people are willing to pay for, and yet pushes out the mission of something that's good and positive. Could be Imerman Angels. It could be Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They actually just signed up with us yesterday. And Big Brothers, Big Sisters, probably many of you know, it's a big one out there. And so whatever, we have a product now that people are willing to pay for. We set up their free, it's free to the charity, but we set up a free store. And so when people are willing to buy, and then basically what happens is the money comes to us at the end of the year. We're not profitable yet, but we're going to get there. When we break even and then eventually become profitable, then we donate back to the charities. So it's 20% of our net profit we donate to the charities. So we thought this was the cleanest, simplest, most transparent way to do it, by being a company also, and not a nonprofit. We're much more nimble. There's just 3 of us as partners, my brother, really, and me. And then we have a third partner who's more like a numbers guy, a private equity guy. And this way we're more nimble. We don't have volunteers. We don't have boards. Imerman Angels has 4 boards, 160 board members. I love it, but there's a lot of people involved and it's a big group. This is much more nimble. And we kind of wanted to do something where we could make quick decisions. We basically didn't have to have all the boards and all the volunteers, and we could make quicker, and we were willing to put our own money in up front, which I know is the same model that you guys do too. You get investors, but you put your own money in, and in that way, if you can create a sustainable business, you can grow something. And for us, of course, we're committed to donating 20% back. So the charities can't lose because it's still free for them. So we thought this was like the perfect social impact, for-profit model, because they're not paying anything. They have no risk. If we can't sell any of their t-shirts and hats for them on CLOZTALK.com, they just get the free promotion of their website and their mission and their logo on our site. And we still think that's positive. People can still learn about them. And if you don't have any money to buy a hat or a t-shirt for, $19, $20, that's okay. You can still go on CLOZTALK.com and use it as a directory and learn about their missions and maybe volunteer or get involved. But we look at that as a positive as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, go ahead.
Thank you. So for the directory aspect of it, what is like the goal with that? You said that people can like look it up and volunteer. Is it kind of just like a directory for people to know what's out there, and like where do you see, I'm sorry, these are 2 questions, but where do you see like yourselves going like within the next couple of years?
Yeah, so Jazz, a great question. Like the directory aspect to us, it's not going to bring funds in, but it's important. And that's why we care about it, because we think first, it really is a directory. They're 2 times vetted. Every one of these 150 so far nonprofits. First, they're vetted by the government. Everyone is a 501c. It takes 7 months to apply. It's like a 27-page document. Government has to say, yes, this makes the world a better place. They're in great standing. We research that. Every one of these is registered with the government in great standing. The second round of vetting is by us, that we look at every group and we're like, what are the groups that we want on our directory? We want the missions that really, if they were able to raise more awareness, they really make the world better. There's a lot of entrepreneurial and powerful social impact nonprofits on here that make you say, whoa, like the second you hear what the mission is, you're like, that's important. And that's important to us. So the directory piece, if we can drive more and more traffic every year where people say, you know what, I'm new to Chicago or I'm new to New York. I want to go on CLOZTALK site, CLOZTALK.com, and I can search in my area what awesome vetted twice vetted nonprofits are here. Drill down easily on what type of mission you're looking for or what area you are. If you're in New York, you can search by New York and you can read about all the missions and say, you know what, I want to get involved. I want to volunteer. So you can email right through our site. You click on their website. We have their email on there. You can connect to them and get involved. So, and that way we're driving support and awareness of all these great missions to the causes. And we look at that as a big source of value too. Where do we want to go with this in the next couple of years? We want to be known, and it's going to be hard because there's a lot of causes out there, and there's a lot of groups out there too that are directories in a way, shape, or form. We want to be known as the most vetted, quality, awesome directory of nonprofits. That's the easiest way for you to navigate and find what you love the most. So we want to be known as a directory first, but we also, in a couple of years, want to be known as the one single place that you can go not only to find these great organizations and get educated about their missions and help spread the word, but become an ambassador and look at this as a new form of volunteering that you can buy a one-off at any time, and we'll make it one-off and drop ship it to you. A hat, a t-shirt, yoga pants, a track jacket with the logo of your favorite cause. But they shouldn't be fragmented, all these nonprofits, and the nonprofits have to buy 300 order minimums and have outlays. That's why they buy $2 t-shirts and everything, because they have to pay up front for hundreds, because the vendors and production facilities require minimums because they want to make money. And then they get the cheap stuff, the charities, and it sits in a closet. They have to guess, do we get 30 larges, 25 mediums, 20 smalls? It becomes a project and a job. And for us, we're like, well, we're going to have them all the charities in one place. We're going to be able to have a directory, and then you can shop for one-offs. So the charity never has $1 at risk. They never pay us $1, but they never required to buy bulk minimums. Awesome. And they never have to store it. We sell it one-offs and drop ship it right to the customer or supporter or ambassador. So the charity or nonprofit never touches it. They focus on their mission and service. We focus on being their branding plug-in. We're like their outsource for branding to get their logo on more bodies, branding them, and it will never cost them a minute or $1 or an ounce of energy.
And I think that's really cool because what it allows those non-for-profits to do is to take that money that they were spending on the kind of cheap, branded clothing and put it towards some other use that might be a better use for it. So that's amazing. And it's such a simple idea.
Right.
Very simple. Very simple.
Very simple, but extremely effective. And I think those are the best ideas when it comes to entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Simple, but extremely effective.
I do agree with that, Joe. 100%. Anything too complicated, we've learned. Our first startup crashed and burned. And there were two reasons. I didn't think about it long enough. I didn't care. You got to love it, as you guys know. You got to think about it long enough and love what you're doing. And I didn't love it enough, so I quit on it too early. I learned a great lesson. You've got to be obsessed with the idea long enough to do it. But the other reason is it was too complicated, the business model. And I didn't think it through. And it taught me that lesson. It's got to be simple. The way to build these new ideas or missions or companies, the good entrepreneurial startup, the idea should be pretty simple. It's just shifting a half degree and really then scaling it. But if the idea is simple, those are usually the ones I agree that succeed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So can you tell us the, not necessarily the downside, but what are the more difficult parts of being a non-for-profit? Because most of the people that we actually interview are for-profit companies and they have their own, problems every now and again. But I never really interviewed somebody who had a non-for-profit. And I just wanted to know from your experience, what's the most difficult parts of running that or starting that? And how would somebody kind of cope with that if they were wanting to start their own non-for-profit?
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's a good question. And now that we're on both sides of it, you're asking someone who does understand both, because we've done the nonprofit thing for 14 years and we're still going. About a third of my time is still on the Imerman Angels side, the nonprofit. But 2/3 of my time in the last year and a half is definitely on CLOZTALK, which is a for-profit, obviously social impact company. So yeah, we've definitely learned they're definitely different. I mean, the first big difference, and it's for good reason, but nonprofit scrutiny by the government is 10 times plus what it is for a company. The filing, the amount of filings and the number of things to file, and every dollar is so scrutinized and accounted for, which is for good reason, right? These are public dollars. People donate to the charity. They want to make sure it's going to the right cause. But to have your books people and your accountants and numbers, I mean, it's a lot of work. And it's tough for a lot of startup nonprofits because they don't have, if someone in their group or a volunteer can't do that QuickBooks or accounting stuff for them, you got to pay for it. But it's just one of the costs that a lot of nonprofits take. So I've learned that the scrutiny for nonprofits is so much different. Wow. For-profits are just more nimble. It's your business. I mean, the government's going to scrutinize you a little bit. You got to file. You have to pay taxes, of course, but it's nowhere near the scrutiny that it is on nonprofits. The other big challenge of nonprofits, and some ideas you have to be a nonprofit, Imerman Angels, to be honest, even to this day, I still could never imagine it being a social impact company because the service is always free. We're helping thousands of people with cancer. We're never going to charge them. Whenever you have a free service versus with CLOZTALK, a product people are willing to pay for, it's baked in doing good. It's much easier. There's the financial model that makes sense where you can be a company and be more nimble, invest in it, and grow. But if it's a free service model, which there's a lot of great ones out there, in my mind, it almost always needs to be a nonprofit because that's where the funds are going to come from. The other challenge of that in that vein is every January 1st of every year, you've paid for us, 13 staff. We have very good rent. It's very low in the loop. It's probably the lowest maybe overall in the entire loop. We have 4,500 square feet, but you got to pay the rent. You have to pay your people. You have computer costs. You have the electrical bill, heating. So the bills kind of add up. And what you've spent on that year, every January 1st, you're basically back at zero, which is so different than like a company, right? With a company, you roll over. If you guys are having a great year, with one of your coffee shops this year, it's great. Then you have some left over to say, okay, January 1st, we've got a little bit in the bank now. We could do this project with that. We could, fix this up a little bit, or we could do this marketing campaign. You have stuff with the nonprofit. You pretty much spend almost all of it because that's what operates the engine of those donations. And then you're like, whoa, we have 13 people to feed, and some of them have kids, and we don't want to let anyone go. And we have $0 in the bank. Like, we better get going. There's that pressure every January 1st to be like, we need some donors, or we need a foundation, or we need something. You've got to have a plan where it's constantly coming in, or else, you're not selling a product, you're giving a free service. So you have to always be thinking about that funds piece. So that can be a challenge. Fundraising is tricky. And there's, I forget the number, but I think it's like 50,000 or something like that nonprofits in Illinois. It's a lot. And so there's so many, and everyone's trying to get funds. It's just fundraising is tough. With Imerman Angels, actually, we figured out our number one source of fundraising is the Chicago Marathon and our marathon teams. About 250 runners run the marathon. We learned that we were younger, and a lot of our friends are athletes and they like sports. And they're like, yeah, we love this cause and we want to run for it. And we're like, okay. We sort of learned, play to your audience. That's what the audience wants.
Yeah.
Give them what they want. They want to run. Okay, great. You can run for us. Be a part of the marathon. They email all their friends. They get $20 here, $30 there. They raise funds for us. But that marathon team across our Chicago marathon team, our New York team, and our Detroit team will probably raise about $500,000. That's like a third of our overall budget is coming from one source, like one thing. In fact, I'm going to New York very soon. This Sunday is the New York Marathon. We have about 40, 50 runners, and that'll raise probably $80,000 in New York. So I'll be out there cheering on the Imerman Angels guys out there. But those are some of the differences. The funding is different. The government scrutiny is different with a nonprofit. And you just have to be more creative. You, by nature, every dollar you spend, you're thinking, does this push the mission forward? Is it serving somebody with cancer? And if it's not, then we don't spend that dollar. You're so lean. You have to be so lean. I mean, I know friends that have had nonprofits. One of them in Chicago was called Why Me, you guys may know. And in 1 year, they were raising $15 million in a year. About 3-4 years ago, they closed the doors. They literally ran out of money. And they were raising at one point 13 million a year. So like if the funding changes or some reason people think that they're not going to donate or the foundation that was helping them all of a sudden dries up, gone. I mean, that's what happens. So there's definitely some tricky aspects of running the nonprofit. I'll tell you this, nonprofit people do it because they love it. They know they're going to make less. You definitely make less in the corporate world, but you realize that you're there because you love it and believe in it. So people work crazy hours. They literally work. Most of our team works every day, I'd say. A lot of them, especially our head of program. We have to tell her to stop working because she will work 7 days a week. And she's like the quarterback of helping the people with cancer. And she just will keep going. And she loves it. But it's really a labor of love, the nonprofit world.
For sure. So do you have any tips for somebody who might be starting a non-for-profit or maybe running a new one? Like how do they cope with some of those hurdles, or how do they overcome some of those things, the scrutiny and also the raising of funds?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you're running a nonprofit or going to start one, the first thing I would tell you, which I think is really important, Jazz and Joe, is make sure that it's not being served. And I tell this to everybody. And I have a lot of friends whose sons will reach out and say, I have this great idea and I want to start a nonprofit. First thing I'd say is look around. Is it being served? You got to search. If somebody else is already doing it, join them. Don't build it. Right? We don't need overlap in the nonprofit space. It doesn't make sense to have two groups with different brands and different names in different areas doing the same thing for the same people. It's like, that's not a good system. In fact, it confuses the people. If you take cancer as an example, if we're one-on-one mentoring, and then, there's another one in, the South Loop in Chicago that's doing one-on-one mentoring for people with cancer with a totally different name, people are like, they're already sick, they're already tired, they're not in a good place. And they're like, well, which one do I use? And this is confusing. They do the same thing. And it's just not an efficient use of resources. So we say, look around. If it's being done, go work for that group, join them. Or if you want to join their board, but don't go build it. It's so much work and so much effort to create a new brand. And if it's being done out there, we're all stronger together. You're going to help more people together. So that's the first thing that I say to people that are starting one. Make sure you do your due diligence. Look around before you build and apply and start creating one. Make sure that it's not being done. And if it's not being done, then it makes sense. Then say, look, this is a crack in the system. No one's filling it. That's how we felt with Imerman Angels. We couldn't find anyone doing this on a big scale. And so we said, okay, let's build this as a team. And, we're blessed to be the biggest in the world for what we do, but it literally was filling a need that other people weren't doing. Yeah. And that was the only reason we created. I think that's so important to anybody thinking about starting a nonprofit.
That's amazing.
Yeah, those are some really good tips,
yeah,
especially the first one. You don't hear that a lot, especially in the for-profit area. Like you do not hear people saying to go join someone if it's already there.
Yeah.
So right. That was great advice.
Yeah, for sure.
But we do want to start wrapping it up to respect your time. So the first question we have to end it off with is, what is the number one takeaway you'd like for someone to walk away from this episode with?
Well, you guys are awesome. It's always a pleasure. You two are just good energy. You really are. And I'm rooting for you guys all. I'm rooting for every entrepreneur. Definitely you guys. And I appreciate your questions, Jazz and Joe. The number one thing I would say to walk away with, there's a couple things, but probably the number one most important thing is really a life issue that people like me, when I got diagnosed with cancer, I didn't go to the doctor for 5 years and I was 26. The last time I went was in college at 21 because I went to the gym and I thought I ate healthy and I thought I felt good. So I didn't need it.
Yeah.
And if you want to save more lives out there, go to every year, get a blood test, whatever you need to do, have a doctor look in your eyes and ears. If you find cancer earlier, you are infinitely more likely to live. It's the people that don't go for 15 years, 5 years like me. I'm very lucky that I caught mine in time. But those are the people that literally die young or die younger than they should because they're like ignoring it. It's like literally like closing your eyes and being in the closet, pretending like it's not going to happen to you. But you can have cancer all over your body like I did, not to scare anyone, but I had no idea. And finally I had the pain and went in and they scanned me. And I looked at the scan, I'm like, that's me? That's in my body? I'm like, I feel like I should know that, but I didn't. And so the key to save people from cancer, which is about 1.6 million Americans every 12 months in our country are going to get diagnosed with cancer. Go in, get a checkup, get a blood test. Most of these docs will be tipped off. If your white blood cell count is so high, there's something going on in your body. They're going to look deeper. And if they find it earlier and there is a problem, you're much more likely to destroy and live a long life. And I would say that. So let's try to save more lives together. But also, I would say, in that same vein, life is not forever. None of us are here forever. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you know you love something, make sure you choose the right thing that you jump for. But if you love it enough and it's the life you want, take that risk. Just like you were saying earlier, Joe, take that risk, live the life you want. We're not here forever. Kind of look at it and be like, well, what are we waiting for? It's the time is now to live the life that you love.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great.
I definitely agree. So you're on Abundant Culture Podcast, and we have to ask everybody this same exact question when they come on because we believe in abundance. That's why we named our company Abundant Culture. We believe it's out there. We believe it's attainable. We believe all these things. And you're doing such a good cause that I'm pretty sure you have a ton of answers for this, and they're all great answers. But how do you, in your own life, spread abundance outside, even maybe to make it more challenging for you? How do you spread abundance outside of what you do at Imerman Angels?
Well, thank you for the question. You know, it's funny. Certain people in life will say, I need separation between what I do in my personal life, and I need to have two different worlds. Me personally, this is just my life, and maybe this helps somebody out there or anyone. But like, I love that the life that I live and the work that we do, the projects are so interwoven with some of my best friends and the people I want to hang out with anyway. And a lot of them are entrepreneurs like you guys. And a lot of them are also with CLOZTALK. These are like entrepreneurs who are social impact leaders who are solving real problems in Chicago and beyond. And like most of my day is meeting with great nonprofits, getting a tour of their office, seeing what they're working on, meeting their team. I like get inspired from them. And I'm like, that is, to me, it's like, wait, I just enjoy every minute of that. Just being around these people and seeing what they're doing and learning about their mission. So it's funny, my life, I've chosen this, but a lot of people, it would be a lot. I understand that because I have really almost no separation between my work life with Imerman Angels and these survivors that some of them are my best friends, these survivors that have, you get deep fast, right? You're like, wait, what did you go through? What did you go through? I mean, you're not talking about like, is Mitch Trubisky really starting for the Bears? Should he see the right quarterback? You're not talking about like surface level. You're talking about like, did I really think I was going to die? And how close was I? What treatments did I go through? And, I have kids and what would happen if I didn't make it? I mean, you're just deep fast. So whether it's Imerman Angels and the survivors we work with, they're some of the best human beings on the planet who volunteer to give back and be grateful and share their story to help the next person. They're just quality people. So whether it's working with them or with CLOZTALK now is like the level up where you're meeting all these nonprofit leaders and social impact stars who care. To me, my life is so interwoven that I feel like 90+% of what I do is just being around them. These are like my work, but they're also my friends. And it's awesome. They inspire me. I'll be honest with you. Like, it's like I enjoy being around them. So if you're going to be hanging out anyway or taking a break from work, you take a break with good people, right? That's the key.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Just having good people and good energy who care about others. I'm blessed to be in that social impact world.
That's amazing.
Yes. So for someone that maybe they want to get in on the CLOZTALK and Imerman's Angels, maybe they can really connect with you and they're like, he's awesome. I just want to take a little bit of his time to talk with him and connect, or anything. How do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I love that when you guys do this to share ideas and connect with people, and I'm happy to help. I root for every entrepreneur, root for every social impact person. I mean, we're all trying to make this world better. But the best way to get a hold of me, my email is JONNY, Jonny, at cloztalk.com, CLOZ talk.com. And my cell is 312-307-4948. If people have questions or you want to reach out by a call or an email, I'll be happy to help. But there's no question about it. If it's your dream and you love it, go for it. Go do it. I'm rooting for every one of those people.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So thank you so much again for coming onto the podcast. This was truly a great episode. So I'm actually going to put this out next week and skip over some of the ones we've already done because it was just that good. And I feel like so many more people need to hear your story and what you're doing, and the impact you're creating. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are awesome and all good energy. And again, thank you for your service for this country. And I love when people do good things happen, and you guys finding each other and getting married. Like, every time I see you guys, I think of that story. I'm like, it's beautiful. You were serving the country, you met each other, you got married, now you work together and you're entrepreneurs and you're building. And so you guys are just positivity and good energy. I'm rooting for both you guys. Keep it up. Anything I can do to help you or anyone, please let us know.
Thank you.
Will do. Thank you. So that's all we have for today, folks. I hope you got as much value out of this as we did. Keep in mind, the only way we can improve is through constructive feedback. So remember to rate and review this episode. Also, you are not the only person that needs to know this super valuable information. So be sure to subscribe and share as well. Stay tuned for the next episode. And remember to always spread abundance. Peace.